Hello everyone, and welcome back to the SRO AC Legends GTC60s Championship. A little bit of a mouthful, but this is round 4 of the championship from Clermont Ferrand in France, also known as the Circuit de Charade. As always, please do let me know if you can hear me okay. I do need to know how I sound, because obviously there's only so much that I can test out before the broadcast. Since obviously I'm doing this all by myself, no broadcast director or anything like that, but I'm sure that you guys will let me know about that in due time. This circuit is one that was previously used for Grand Prix quite a long time ago. Obviously the last French Grand Prix held here was in 1972. It's also held Grand Prix motorcycle racing and things like that, all sorts of international motor racing. And it still exists. Not many people know that, but it still technically exists. It's a much shorter circuit nowadays. They only use the kind of village section of the track, so you wouldn't get this long sweeping section that goes through the local forests and past the local cliffs, as you can see Kirillov doing that. So it's been shortened from its original 8-kilometer layout, that's 5 miles if you were wondering, to a 2.4 mile circuit, 3.9 kilometers, and as such it's lost a lot of its original appeal. It no longer hosts international motor racing, only national club racing and the like. But this is actually still a track that exists today, making it quite unique in this championship of mostly historic style races. This is of course round 4 of the championship as it stands. The championship leader as of last race is Julian Paus, the immensely popular Julian Paus, who always has supporters showing up in the YouTube chat. He takes the championship lead away from... Whoops. Sorry, just loaded up my phone and it immediately started playing my own voice back to me. Oh, and thank you to Roman Labro for saying yes, all good, presumably in relation to my audio quality, so you guys can all hear me okay. Thank you for letting me know. But yeah, Julian Paus took the championship lead away from Maddie Shepherd at the last race meeting. Let me get that all up on my phone as well, so I don't have to keep switching between tabs on my PC, which could cause things to lag. Of course, we've had 3 different winners from the 3 different events that we've done so far this season. Maddie Shepherd, who is second in the championship, won the very first race way back at Rennes, the other round that took place in France. Third in the championship is Matthias Estrella. Fourth was Laurent Lons. I say was, and we'll get onto that in a minute. And then fifth was Kirillov. Sixth was Tony Talviti. Then Stefan Lagodin, Michal Mazurek, Paul Upham, and John van der Geest round out the top 10. As you can see there, Kirillov putting down an outlap of 3:51.3, so a very long circuit for today's race. Now the reason I say that Laurent Lons was fourth in the championship is because on points he is fourth. However, any of you who have been watching the previous rounds may have been expecting to see him in a Chevrolet Corvette today, and he has switched to the Bizzarini 5300 GT Corsa. The reason for that is because he says there was an update to the mod, the GTC Legends mod, which severely hampered the handling and the ability of the Corvette, and he's just not enjoying racing it anymore. So he has decided to switch to the Bizzarini 5300, and that of course means that he forfeits all of the championship points that he has gained so far in this season, as did a couple of people after the very first round of the championship back at Rennes. But he's still here, he's still racing, he still has a good chance of competing for wins, especially now that he has the Bizzarini, which has already proven to be extremely competitive in all of its races so far this season. Of course, Kirillov won the second race of the season. Sorry, Tony Talviti won the second race of the season. Kirillov won last time out at Bremgarten in a Bizzarini of his own. So that's how it stands after the first 3 rounds of the championship. We're at exactly the halfway point in the championship right now, with just Clermont Ferrand, the Feldberg Ring, and then the Kleiner Nordschleife still to go. And today, of course, Circuit de Charade, a fantastic venue, as all of them are. Let's take a look at some of the other cars out there. As you saw in the background from Kirill Kirilov, you have the Alfa Romeo 33 Corsa Stradale of John van der Geest. This car here is the lightest car still in use, and has, I think, the best power to weight ratio. Of course, the lightest car that was used in this championship was previously the Porsche 904-8, but I don't think we have any Porsche 904-8s left in this championship as Kirilov goes off and up the hill. I just saw him disappearing up the grass bank there, so thank goodness we have no spectators in attendance. But yes, here is the Alfa Romeo, statistically the least powerful car that's being used today, but it handles a lot better than some of the others and has proven to be competitive at the previous races. Tony Talviti here is racing another Alfa Romeo. He of course won the second race of the season at Bannock Bray in Scotland. Then we have Matteus Estrella, another Bizzarini, locking up a wheel. Does he make the corner? He does. Misses the apex slightly, but that's okay. He's still got a lot of track left to make that up again. Maddie Shepherd still sticking with the increasingly unpopular Corvette, which was almost unstoppable at the very first round of the championship and then was rather nerfed from the second round onwards. And Shepherd has not been having such a good time of it since then, but she's still been soldiering on, knowing that if she was to change cars, she would have to give up all of her points, just as Laurent Blondes did. Maddie Shepherd still has a chance of winning the championship and still will be going for some strong points today. Here, ignore the car in the pits currently. That here we are. I clicked the wrong button. Here's the other Corvette in action. This is Michal Mazurek. Mazurek yet to score a podium in this season, but he's been there or thereabouts. He's been in the top 10 a couple of times, and I can very much see him scoring a podium before the season is up. Mazurek is a driver that I've had the pleasure of racing a good few times, and actually I'm always being asked to do some more on board, so let's take a look on board with Michal Mazurek as he takes us round at least the first part of this Circuit de Charade. This is turn 2, the first right-hander of the track, so we've caught him very, very early in the lap, and that's excellent for showing you how the rest of the track is. Turn 2 is known as Courbe de Manson, which I believe means mansion turn. This is Le Golf, which is a left-hander. I presume that maybe there's a golf course nearby. I don't know that for sure, but there you go. And we're now coming up to what will be quite a tight right-hand hairpin at Les Belvedere. Here we go. Big grass bank on the inside to be avoided as well. Now down through an unnamed left-hander. Lots of spectators on the outside. That looks like a good place to watch. Probably quite safe there actually, with the big drop-off that stops cars before they ramp their way up to you. Safety was not really a consideration back when this track was used in Formula 1, and sadly there were a few people killed here over the years, as was the case with most circuits back in the 1950s and 60s, of course, which was when this track was in its heyday, let's say. So we've been through the twisty bit known as Les Gemous. We're now heading up towards what will be a several apex right-hander at Gravenoir. Ah, cows. Very nice. We've got a pasture on the right there. And then a few more spectators dotted around, a fire engine, so maybe they did consider spectator safety at that particular corner. And now down the hill through La Carrière. If anyone here speaks French, I hope I am not butchering your pronunciations, and I hope that you're not shouting at me for speculating as to what some of these corner names might mean. This here is probably the fastest bit of the course, because we're nearly flat out from here, from Gravenoir, all the way down to the end of the lap. A few little lifts as you go through these curbs, just to make sure that the car's not understeering its way off the track. but it's definitely, I mean, you can tell it's a fast section of the course. We're only just changing down gears now as we go into Virage de la Ferme, which is what that corner is known as. And then the next corner, oh, he's pulling over. Oh, that's a shame. I guess we'll have to hand over to Laurent Lons to show us the rest of the circuit. In the extremely powerful Bizzarini, the heaviest car in the race at over a ton. It's the only car in action that weighs over a ton, but is extremely powerful to make up for it. Has the highest theoretical top speed of any of these cars here. The left-hander he's just been through is known as Le Petit Pont, which means the little bridge, and now he heads through a right-hand hairpin, an unnamed right-hand hairpin. The next named corner is this right-hander here, known as Tretre de Theides, or Theides, or something like that. Whatever that means, I am unsure, I'm afraid to say. Then a little left-hander and a right-hander known as Virage Rosier, named of course after Louis Rosier, who was a French Formula 1 driver from the 1950s. That completes a lap of the Circuit de Charade, and for Laurent Lons it was a 3:38.505 that puts him 4th overall in the order. Who haven't we seen yet? We haven't seen Jari Lakkinen, that's another Bizzarini. Bizzarini with the Swiss cross on it in a couple of different places. We were of course in Switzerland last time out at the Bremgarten circuit, and that was a fantastic race as it was. Roman Labro says, I'm so sad for Julian. Yeah, we haven't seen Julian Pausier, have we? Is he in the server? I want to quickly check that. I know this is a little bit unprofessional going back to the pits, but we don't appear to have our championship leader. That is very unfortunate. Roman, could you please let us know if you know any more about why that might be? Could you let us know why Julian Powers is not in attendance here today? Meanwhile, the last car that I don't think I've mentioned, even though we have seen it out on track, is the Ferrari. This is Kirill Kirillov's Ferrari, and of course Phil Brown is also out there. It's the 275 GT, if I remember correctly. I have just got the page up so that I can check the exact number. Yeah, 275 GTB Competizioni to be precise. Phil Brown, he has changed cars, hasn't he? I thought he was in a Ferrari. Am I getting him confused with Paul Upham? I might be. Yeah, okay, I don't think Phil Brown has changed cars. This is the Shelby Cobra 289 hardtop that Phil Brown has out there, which looks to be the only example of its kind in today's race, as we don't have some of the other Shelby Cobras, such as the one that... Do we have Stefan Legodin? Again, I'm just gonna quickly check that. We do actually have a Porsche Philip Pichler here. I said earlier on that we didn't have one of the Porsche 904/6s. Sorry, I said Porsche 904/8s, but it's actually the Porsche 904/6. I did say we didn't have one of these, but apparently we do, because Philip Pichler still has the only example of these in the race, which actually shouldn't be too bad around the Circuit de Charade, a very tight circuit where the lightweight Porsche 904/6 could come into its own, but we'll wait and see how that goes, because obviously he had quite a tough time with it last time out at Bremgarten. There's one more car out there. This is Mark Johnson. He has a Jaguar E-Type, a beautiful British car from the early 1960s, specifically 1963. This particular car, the Jaguar E-Type Lightweight, was released, and probably not the quickest car in the pack, probably not the one that I would personally have gone for, but Mark Johnson, I'm sure, is having a lot of fun out there, and is giving it his best shot nonetheless. He did say after the last race he was quite surprised by how quickly he was being overtaken out there on track, other people just flying past him on the straights, but like I said, he's giving it a good go nonetheless, and hopefully having a good time. So, the session has now ticked to 0. Not sure why it's showing up as yellow. The time's up at the top of the field. Hopefully no serious accidents out there on track. Michal Majerek goes up to 7th position now. As you can see, Tony Talviti has set by far and away the fastest lap that we've seen so far in this qualifying session, but because this is a long lap, it might well be a little while before we see everyone complete their flying laps. We are of course watching Kirill Kirillov, who is in the second sector of the course and seems to be the best chance that anyone has of taking that pole position away from Tony Talviti. Apparently, according to Roman Labro, Julian Powers has had a power outage, and that is why he's not racing today. Well, that is truly tragic, because the championship leader is going to lose out on his championship lead at this rate, and we never like to see that happen. And it sounds like it was through no fault of his own, which is very, very unfortunate, to say the least. Kirill Kirillov pulls off to the side of the road, and that looks like the qualifying session is over and done. So Tony Talviti has taken an absolutely massive pole position of 4 seconds, which, yes, I know this is a very long circuit, meaning that the gaps are somewhat exaggerated, but 4 seconds here, you know, that could easily be 2 seconds at a regular 2-minute or so long circuit, and whichever way you look at it, that is quite a gap. He is going to be the one to watch today, and the one that everybody wants to beat. Of course, Tony Talviti would probably have been a contender for the championship lead by now, but he himself was unfortunately forced to miss the last race due to other commitments. He did pop into our YouTube chat a couple of times, so it was good to see that he was still paying attention to this series, but he is only 6th in the standings as a result, the winner of course of race 2 of this championship, but it seems that he's come back with the intent to pick up where he left off, and I truly expect him to be the one to watch today, the one to beat, but will anyone be able to even hold a candle to him? If Banov Bray is anything to go by, maybe not. Of course, it was a Grand Chelem there, meaning he took pole position, fastest lap, and led every single lap of the race on his way to winning. Just as Maddie Shepherd did back at Rennes, although unfortunately that form seems to have gone downhill since then. Shepherd 5th in this qualifying session. And I think it was Kirill Kirillov who rather broke the streak of Grand Chelems at the last race, making it 3 different winners from 3 different races. I think if there's going to be a third different winner today, looks like John van der Geest and Laurent Lons are vying for the spot that could contest for that. Shall I manually advance, says the server. Looks like you might have to, because the server's not advancing right now. Okay, so we'll wait for that to happen. In the meantime, the qualifying times, we've got Tony Talviti at the top of the order, followed by Kirill Kirillov, John van der Geest in 3rd position, only a 1/10 of a second behind Kirill Kirillov. Very good performance from the lightweight Alfa Romeo 33 Corsa Stradale. Laurent Lons is in 4th position, followed by Maddie Shepherd, then Matthias Estella, Michal Mazurek, Jari Lakkinen, Paul Upham, Phil Brown and Philip Pichler, meaning we didn't end up getting a lap in from Mark Johnson. Was there anyone else who didn't set a lap? Just double check that quickly. Kimi Martikainen is in the server. I saw his car moving just now, but yeah. Kimi being asked to turn his lights off, that's interesting. I wonder if he was distracting other drivers out there. Probably not deliberately, but there you go. What you're seeing on screen right now, by the way, is a car that's not actually going to be racing. That's the car that kind of has to be there for the cameras to work. It's an Austin Healey 3000 LW, stands for lightweight, and lightweight it is indeed. And to be honest, it's a little bit of a shame we don't see any of those racing, but I don't think that they would be particularly competitive. They just do not have the power of the Corvettes or the Bizzarinis. Let's see, I was trying to see, how the starting sequence is going to work here, because we've had a couple of different starting sequences over the races. It should be that there's a slow rolling start, and then on the exit of turn 1, the leader drops the clutch and off they go, or drops the hammer and off they go. So you see the lights on the screen, but when they go out, that does not automatically start the race. It only starts the partial formation lap. It looked as if someone wasn't quite ready for that there, because almost looked as if someone was trying to get a flying start back in the pack. And yep, they're going into single file now. So we await the signal from Tony Talviti. When does he go? It sounds like he's picked up the throttle now, and it's a great start from Talviti, and John van der Geest is already side by side with Kirill Kirilov for second position. So the race now has properly begun, and look at Laurent Lons coming through in the very powerful Bizzarini, getting up the inside already of John van der Geest, but having to settle for it. 13 cars complete the first sector, that's the number we were expecting, so no drivers failing to start the race, always good to see. And it looks as if everyone's through cleanly, but Kirilov runs wide, and van der Geest is going to have a chance on the exit. Over the crest of the hill they go. Oh, and off the road goes Kirilov, and the first incident of the race is the banana yellow Ferrari of Kirill Kirilov, who will jump over the grass bank and drop down to 9th, maybe 10th position, as through comes Kimi Martikainen, up several places from having not set a qualifying time. Kirilov managing to rejoin the track before dropping to the very back, but he gets the curb again and goes off the road just as he did a couple of corners ago. I wonder if there's damage for that Ferrari. I don't see any steering damage, but Kirill Kirilov all out of sorts in the early stages of this race, dropping right to the back of the pack in a car that absolutely has the pace to do much better than that. Tony Talviti now leads the race by nearly 3 seconds. It's Alfa Romeo's first and second in this race, and Matty Shepherd was taking a look for third position on Laurent Lons in the background, as we're still on the opening lap of the race, and we will be for another 2 minutes or so, with it being such a long lap. Through the really twisty bit, we're about to head into the section of the track where everything changes and it starts to become really quite quick. This is where the Bizzarini and the Corvette will come into their own, and John van der Geest might start to have some issues, have some questions to answer in that Alfa Romeo. Looks like Kirilov has now got back past Mark Johnson, so is no longer right at the back of the field. He's made up one position. So we're going through the corners known as Gravenoir and La Carrière now, and this takes you down into the really quick section. Kimi Martikainen is now up ahead of Paul Upham, who seems to have dropped a couple of seconds, maybe dipping a wheel into the grass or something along those lines for the second Ferrari driver. And Kirilov has now passed Pichler for 11th position, and wide and into the wall goes van der Geest. He definitely hit the wall there, and you can see the scrubbed paint on the left hand side of the car, witness marks to what's just happened, but he's managed to maintain that second position. That could have been much worse there for Sim Racing Online's resident admin, John van der Geest, and luckily he seems to be continuing in this race perfectly fine under his own power, but 5 seconds now behind Tony Talviti before we've even completed the first lap. Kirill Kirilov has passed Phil Brown, getting himself up into 10th position ahead of the sole AC Cobra driver in this race. Kimi Martikainen up ahead of Jari Lakkinen now. Great opening lap from Martikainen. He's up from the very back of the grid to 7th position already. Let's take a look back to the front just so we don't miss anything between van der Geest, Lons and Shepherd. Shepherd getting it, rotating it on its axes down into the Curva Rosière. And the first lap is complete, and it's Talviti leading from van der Geest, Lons, Shepherd and Estrella, who is in 5th position in the background in that dark coloured Bizzarini. The first lap took them over 4 minutes, showing you just how long this circuit is. It's, like I said earlier, 8 kilometres long, which, and wow, Martikainen's already up into 6th place now, around the outside of Mazurek, but Mazurek holds it on the inside, he keeps 6th. I'll definitely be watching the charging progress of Kimi Martikainen for a little bit, because this is actually really impressive stuff from the Alfa Romeo driver, who went from 13th to 7th in just 1 lap. Up the inside, and it looks like he's going to get it here, because we're in a tighter bit, and the Alpha will have the advantage and has the grip to hold that position around the outside of Michal Mazurek. Another great move from Kimi Martikainen. So 5 minutes of this race gone now. Past the wall on the right hand side. We've seen a couple of incidents in this race already, and this championship has been a little bit bumper cars at times. I remember Bannock Bray, pretty much everyone but the winner, Tony Talviti incidentally, ended up picking up some sort of damage. And Michal Mazurek, whoa, was right up in the air as I cut to him there. I noticed he was losing positions. He's lost 4 positions here. And comes out in 12th position, even more than 4 positions. And that car was absolutely taking flight. And we saw it on the stream. He was running a little bit wide through the right-hander. And then he started to lose time. And then as we cut to him, he was having a big incident, as the 2 Ferraris have now swapped places, with Kirillov up to 8th ahead of Paul Upham. Look at that view over the city of Clermont Ferrand as we head down the hill. Jari Lakkinen is ahead of Martikainen. Martikainen, is he off? He is. Martikainen is in the weeds. Rejoins 11th. He'll get demoted to 12th now. Michal Mazurek comes through. And that is a big shame from the best starter of the race, Kimi Martikainen. Come on guys, get your head in gear at this stage. It's still early on in this race, and we've seen how chaotic it can be in this championship. You just need to keep yourself on the road in order to benefit. That looked a little wide there from John van der Geest. He's now on the back of... Laurent Lons is now all over the back of him. In the fight for second position, this is a bit of the track where the Bizzarini can potentially take advantage. Around the left-hander at Le Petit Pont. Goes for a little bit of a switchback manoeuvre. Van der Geest covers him off nicely. Matty Shepherd in close attendance as well. Matheus Estrella keeping up. And goodness me, they're already 10 seconds behind Tony Talviti at this stage in the race. At this rate, he's going to be winning it by nearly a minute. Still very early in the race though, and the Ferraris are swapped back because Kirillov's off the road. Goodness me, every time I see a position change, it seems that someone's having an incident, and Kirillov will drop to the very back of the pack after his 3rd or 4th big off of the day. So that puts Mazurek back into the top 10 now, and remember, he was well off the road just now, showing you just what it means to remain stable and keep going in this race. Obviously every driver setting their personal best lap of the race as they come across the start-finish line this time around, due to it only being the 2nd lap of the race, despite how long we've been racing for already. Even Kirillov, who went massively off the road. But of course they didn't have to do that slow turn 1 on this lap, so of course they were going to gain and benefit like that. Now, as much as I do want to pay attention to every driver, I am worried that we're going to miss something in this race for 2nd, 3rd, 4th, etc. And this is a very important race, not just for this particular race, but for the championship. Matty Shepherd has a great opportunity to take the lead back in the championship today, since Julian Paus is unfortunately not here. And Laurent Lons, of course, has forfeited his championship points by changing car. It hasn't yet come up on the official site that he's forfeited his points, but I'm sure he will, because them's the rules, as they say. Shepherd trying to line him up with that beautiful view of Clermont Ferrand on the left-hand side. Kirillov back up into 12th place ahead of Mark Johnson at the back. Johnson doing fairly well actually. I know he's in last place, but I haven't seen any big offs from him yet. And I hope I'm not cursing him in any way, but I tell you what, if he keeps going now, he's going to end up with a top 10 finish simply through attrition. It is worth noting that these cars are very tough. They only run with 50% of the default damage in this series, just to allow these drivers to continue if something does go wrong. But we've seen that they don't really tend to pick up steering damage, at least from what we've seen in this championship so far, unless you have a really sudden stop, such as John van der Geest had back at the first round of the championship at Clermont. Through the sweepers, Laurent Lons, third position, just half a second behind John van der Geest, who himself is now 13.5 seconds behind the storming Tony Talviti, who we probably won't see again for the rest of the race unless something happens. Laurent Lons has gone for the light blue number 7 version of the Bizzarini. They are able to select their own liveries. That looked wide from Shepherd in the background there. She's got it back under control. All of these drivers, of course, have plenty of experience in sim racing online, especially, well, Kimi Martikainen's just made a move on Michal Mazurek, so I'll come back to that thought. Up into 10th position, nicely done. He's got Philip Pichler in front of him, so whatever damage he may have picked up from his off earlier on doesn't appear to be too severe, as Tony Talviti once again storms the fastest lap, and you do get a point for fastest lap in this championship, so that is important. Round the outside, made that look simple, did Kimi Martikainen, with no disrespect to Philip Pichler. It's just that Martikainen has been an overtaking master in this race so far. As we head towards the end of another lap, you see that car rotating on its axis quite a lot as well. Seems to be something that these mid-1960s GT cars can just kind of get away with. These are beautiful cars, of course. This series is eligible for any GT-style racer made between 1963 and 1969. The oldest examples of cars that we have here are is the Jaguar E-Type, driven by Mark Johnson. The newest that we have had is the Porsche 911R Grupper that was used by someone earlier in this championship, but we haven't seen the Porsche 911 in a little while. Surprisingly, because I have to admit that's probably the car that I would personally go for. It's certainly the car that I would test first if I was going to race in this championship. Oh, and Martikainen's off. I was looking down, unfortunately, but Martikainen's had a big spin. Hasn't lost any positions because he'd already built up enough of a gap to Pichler. You can see he's smashed up the window a little bit. The windscreen looks fine. It's the passenger side window that looks like it's seen better days. And once again, oh, and Kirilov's going off in the background. I just switched to that in time to see it, but Kirilov has hit the bank again. He seems to be having an absolute torrid time of it out there. It's a big shame from a driver we know is a lot better than this. Okay, well, he's got it back under control now, continuing on in the race. This car here, probably the most expensive car in the race. Obviously, this pack has more cars available than what are being used, and I think probably the most expensive car that is available in this championship would have to be the Ferrari 250 GTO Series 2. The 250 GTO is quite famously worth over £10 million usually when it's sold in collection. Absolutely ridiculous, and especially ridiculous considering that they are still raced in some classic race events such as the Goodwood Revival or the Goodwood Members Meeting, or even the Monterey Classic over in California. And I've seen some wonderful clips of cars like this being absolutely thrashed around as if they were worth nothing. You may wonder why people do that, because of the risk. You know, they're old cars worth a lot of money, spare parts are in very short supply and all of that, but at the end of the day, they were designed to be raced, weren't they? I mean, what's the point of having them sitting in a museum when they could be out there performing for crowds just as they were meant to do. It's almost poetically beautiful, to be honest, seeing them doing what they're doing here. Some of the other cars that we could have had in this series, but no one has selected to race, due to them being a little more obscure or a little less competitive, obviously include the Ferrari 250 GTO and 250 GTO Series 2. Also the Jaguar E-Type Le Mans, which is just the Jaguar E-Type lightweight but less light, so kind of makes sense that the Jaguar E-Type Le Mans wouldn't be used here. Lotus Elan 26R, tiny little thing, not much power on that, as Kimi Martikainen has passed Phil Brown for 9th position once again, and will now set off once again after Paul Upham, who he passed earlier on. We also could have had the GTC Mercedes-Benz 300 SL, just the Mercedes-Benz 300 SL. The GTC, of course, is the name of this mod, so I was just reading that out with my brain switched off a little bit, but there you go. The 300 SL, of course, the first car famously to have gull-wing doors, doors that open upwards rather than outwards. I'm always a bit worried about, you know, what happens if you roll over and catch fire in one of those. You can't really get out, but I know that modern Mercedes have a modern cars with gull-wing doors have a solution to that, where they actually have little explosive devices on the top of the doors, obviously very mild explosives, kind of like an airbag or whatever, that detaches the door entirely, so you get a clear route out if you do roll over. But not sure they'd have thought of that back in the 1960s, so just don't roll the thing, I guess. As Kirill Kirillov has got back past Michal Mazurek. Also available in this wonderful mod is the Porsche 911 R Grouper, the most modern car available, which I'm very surprised we don't see racing. The Cobra 289 Hardtop, obviously Phil Brown has a Cobra 289, Phil Brown has the Cobra 289 Hardtop, but you could also have the Cobra 289 Competition, which is the convertible version of the car. And I'm afraid to say Mark Johnson has DNF'd next to some conspicuous looking tyre marks. I wonder if we've had an accident there. Kirill Kirillov is now back up into 10th place, passing Philip Pickler. But yeah, unfortunate for Mark Johnson, meaning we no longer have any more Jaguar E-Types in this race. And that continues the theme of not giving up, being very, very important in a race of attrition such as this. If you do also download this mod, you could try out a Mustang GT 350R. Again, a very, very powerful car, not quite sure how it corners. Cars back in those days, American muscle cars, kind of had suspensions made of wood. Obviously leaf spring suspensions, but not particularly well made. Even so, they could really shift, couldn't they? Tony Talviti now, another fastest lap, 3:33.133. So close to greatness with all threes, but he had to mess up on the 10th of a second digit. Martikainen and Upham side by side now for 7th position. Paul Upham fends him off. This is the greatest resistance anyone's put up to Kimi Martikainen all day. Martikainen has overtaken so many people, you'd expect him to be in the lead by now, but obviously he's had a couple of offs as well. Ooh, saves that one. And tries to go around the outside. They rub door handles into Rosier. Ooh, and on the exit of Rosier as well. They're side by side across the start-finish straight. The next corner's a left-hander. Martikainen has the inside line, but Brown has the drive. And still they race on the exit. This is amazing between the two of them. And Kimi Martikainen finally gets the move done. Really good stuff there from the Alfa Romeo 33 Corsa Stradale driver, who is once again in 7th position. I think this is the joint highest position he's been in all day long. And now he's got to set off for Jari Lakkinen just up the road in his Bizzarini, which we haven't seen for a while. So I'm just going to show you Jari Lakkinen lapping the circuit as he is. Okay, so a slightly chaotic first 20 minutes of this race, but we are now a third of the way into our time, and Upham's got back past Martikainen because Martikainen's been off again. Well, I do hope there was no contact between the two, and Kirilov's off again as well. I'm sensing some themes here with what cars and what drivers are struggling a little bit more than others. Kirilov's still in 10th position though. But yeah, as for Martikainen, he's probably got. I mean, he's probably one of the fastest drivers out there. Probably one of the top, at least 4 or 5 fastest drivers on the track. He just needs to stop spinning. Easier said than done, of course. These cars are very tricky to drive. Look at him drifting that car around, all-wheel drift. But if you're spinning so much, you just gotta slow the thing down a little bit, gather your thoughts, and just go again. And into the wall, and it's happened again! Oh no! Now hopefully everyone avoids him because he's coming back across the track, and there goes Phil Brown through into 8th position now. And Martikainen will have to do it all over again. This really is a race of attrition, just like Bannock Bray. And so far pretty much the only drivers I've seen not putting a foot wrong are the top maybe 6 drivers as it stands. Especially, of course, Tony Talviti, who is still absolutely running away with it, and I'm sure I will be able to show you a little bit more of him later on. But simply, we haven't really had much... Oh, and Martikainen in the wall, no! Save it, come on. No, he's going around. That's his 3rd spin in 1 lap. I'm sorry to say, but he is not very well in control of his car at this point in time. And he drops to the very back of the pack. Okay. We're now... Oh, and that... Well, Mazurek was going for 10th on Pickler. Takes another look. Like I said, we're now over a third of the way into our time, although the race will probably be a little bit longer, because when the time ticks to 0, that doesn't end the race then and there. You have to complete the lap that you're on, or the lap that the leader's on. Unless, of course, you're a lap down, then you just complete the race when you cross the line after the leader has finished their own race. Another big twitch from Martikainen, but he seems to be under control this time. Ooh. Maybe I spoke too soon, but he's gathered it up on the exit. Goes around the outside of Mazurek. Nearly runs it off the road. He'll be able to put the power down there. And Upham has just lost 2 places to Brown and Kirilov. Brown and Kirilov, who are now side by side once again in this race. They have been a couple of times already. And there's a move in the background. Mazurek looks like he's got Pickler for 10th place. And Kirilov does go through into 7th ahead of the other Ferrari example of Paul Upham. The Ferraris, I think, went a little bit better at Bremgarten last time out. So, at this point in time, it's Talviti leading from Van der Geest from Lons. It's right on board with Laurent Lons a little bit in this baby blue Bitterini. About 29 seconds behind the race leader as it stands. Tony Talviti has absolutely gone. Then we got Shepard 4th, Estrella 5th, Lackinen 6th, Kirilov 7th, Upham 8th, Brown 9th, and Mazurek did get up into 10th position on this lap ahead of Kimi Martikainen. It all looks a little bit more sedate at the front of the field. They're setting faster lap times, but they're not really battling quite so hard. Speaking of, Kimi Martikainen is now back into the top 10. Can he keep it this time? Can he keep his cool? Little twitch, but that's okay. All-wheel drifts are fine so long as they're done under your own power, under your own control. The real problem comes when you go past the point of no return. and you start to spin the car around. Because you'll either go off the road in one direction, or you'll overcorrect and snap off to the other side. Plenty of nasty things to hit on this course. Grass banks, telephone poles, houses, people. Obviously the people aren't real, but thank goodness for that, because I think we would have accidentally committed a little bit of manslaughter in this race so far, if they were. Over the crest of the hill. Catching Phil Brown now. Driving past Phil Brown like he's not even there. That's awesome stuff from Martikainen. Brown just seemed to go, oh, here we go again then. Once again, no disrespect to Phil Brown, he's a very good racer. But Kimi Martikainen is on a rampage today. Definitely the most entertaining driver to watch so far today. And I mean that as a semi-compliment. The blue Ferrari ahead of him is of course Paul Upham. The thing I love about GT cars from this era is that they're so clearly different from one another. Oh, that's a big twitch. Looks as if he was a bit distracted by Upham running wide up ahead. But I mean different in terms of characteristics, not just in terms of how the cars look, but how they drive as well. I think the modders have done a really good job on that. And Upham runs very wide. Martikainen gets the up and under. He'll be on the outside for the first corner, but he ducks underneath him. Whoa, that was close. That's a big rotation, but he holds on to it. I can tell what he was going for there anyway. Meanwhile, Tony Talviti's lead has extended to 30 seconds. He's going to end up lapping people by the end of this race for sure. I know, that seems quite obvious because every other race has had lapperies, but with a track this long, it's certainly not a given. Over the crest of the hill once again, Kimi Martikainen lining up Paul Upham. Around the outside. Does it before the corner. That was awesome stuff. Not even on a straight there. Didn't have to wait for a straight, but now comes the issue that he's out on his own. He doesn't have anyone else who he can mark his reference points off of. He's got to figure out his own way, and that's when we've seen him making mistakes in previous laps. Oh, and talking of mistakes, Phil Brown has absolutely invented his own track there, as he drops right to the back of the order, I'm afraid to say. Come on Phil, get it fired. There we go. And now he's got to climb quite a steep hill to get it back onto the road. There we go, he's found it. Not ideal there for Phil Brown. Let's take a look back at second, third and fourth, who have been in formation for the entire race. And honestly have been driving a stellar race so far, not to have made too many mistakes. John van der Geest, of course, has a little bit of damage. We saw him bouncing off the wall on the first lap, but since then, nothing of note really from the Sim Racing Online admin. Ooh, Lons tried to line him up there. Oh, Lons runs wide! That might give Shepard a chance. Shepard up his inside. And for the first time in the race, there's been a change in the top four. Around the outside now. Can she hang on? Does she have the traction? She does. Lons was just caught completely off guard by Van der Geest braking. He ran wide. And for a second it looked as if Lons was going to be challenging Van der Geest, and then it all swung the other way and the hunter became the hunted. Maddie Shepard up into the podium positions. Course for her best result since her win at the very first race of the season. We'll continue to watch this battle for a little bit just because I don't want to miss anything that might happen. Lons will be a little bit fired up now considering he made that mistake and he knows that it was his mistake. No one else he can blame for that. And sometimes you see drivers getting a little overzealous in their attempt to get back on terms. Not to say that Laurent Lons would do that necessarily, but he might, and so we'll watch it just in case. Van der Geest has now built up a second over Shepherd. Could he start to get away, or are the two cars behind him too able to keep up? We're now over half of the distance, half of the time through this race, and since we haven't seen Tony Talviti for so long... Oh, well, I was going to say let's take a look at him, but there's been an incident involving Upham and Mazurek, and that allows Pekla back through to 9th place. I think Upham and Mazurek must have made contact in that last corner there. It's now Pekla 9th, Upham 10th, and Mazurek 11th. Mazurek coming back at Upham on the exit. Up the hill. Around the outside. And this is where Maddie Shepherd was just able to pass Lons, and Mazurek does make the move stick by the look of it. Oh, okay, maybe not. Upham got a really good drive out of that corner there. That was very good stuff from Paul Upham, and he regains that 10th position. Okay, quick, before anything else happens, let's take a look at Tony Talviti for a bit, because otherwise I feel like I would have been paying him absolutely no attention today, and everyone deserves their time in the spotlight. I've been unfortunately giving a bit too much of the spotlight to people who are having accidents in this race. And oh my goodness me! Well, talking of accidents, back to the pits goes Philip Pekla. He'll lose that lap, he'll have to do it again, so Philip Pekla will now be a lap down. But yeah, talking of accidents, my goodness me, Philip Pekla turning turtle in that Porsche. And how that happened, I don't know. He was racing with Mazurek and Brown, of course. Mazurek and Upham, sorry. So again, hopefully no contact, but you never know. Who was it who flipped over last time? I'm sure someone flipped in the last race too. Was it Van der Geest? Someone ended up on their lid, but 2 weeks is a long time, my friends. Especially when you have so many accidents to keep up with. I'm not trying to be overly critical of this competition, but we have had a few today, it's fair to say. Still 12 drivers running though, so if I can say anything to these drivers, I will say well done for continuing on. And Philip Pekla has had another spin. His car looks fresh though, so I reckon the server has given him a fresh car after that. Never mind, I just saw the bonnet's dented. I'd have thought he would have had to spend more time in the pits than that, after literally flipping his car over, at exactly the spot he's just passed actually. We just caught him where he had that accident. But yeah, when I say he's... Ooh dear, that's a bit all over the place. When I say that that lap's going to be taken away from him, what I basically mean is that when you teleport your car back to the pits to get it repaired, you have to then restart the lap that you were already on, so you are taken well out of contention. And yeah, I'm pretty sure that means you will be a lap down. Down the straight, Laurent Lons. Philip Pekla still showing up as being 3 minutes behind the leader, which is not quite a lap around here, of course. So maybe somehow he has kept on the lead lap just because of how long this track is. Or maybe it's yet to update itself. Shepherd very close to Van der Geest, who has not been able to get away. Could Maddie Shepherd, who's been struggling in that Corvette for such a while, prove that the Corvette is still competitive by overtaking John Van der Geest and taking second position in this race? Maddie Shepherd, who I first raced back in 2018 in the Sim Racing Online Classic Formula 3 Championship we did back then, a 1960s Formula 3 Championship. We did a race together at Spa-Francorchamps, where I was having an awesome battle with Michal Mazurek, who is also in this race of course, and then ended up going off the road on the very last lap of the race, which I'm still gutted about, and and losing my chance of winning. And Shepard came through and took second place. We became very good friends from then, and we've raced many times since. Actually commentated with Maddie Shepard before as well. We used to do a R-Factor 2 sports car racing championship, a multi-class sports car racing championship that you can still find on the Sim Racing Online YouTube channel. But again, a very long time ago, probably 2019 from memory. Laurent still not out of it either. So far in this lap, he's looked quicker than Shepard. Leaves being flung up now from the side of the circuit. Van der Geest, ooh, puff of smoke as he gathers up what was quite a big slide. He'll run a little bit wide into the left-hander. Down the hill. Lots and lots of tyre marks on the track there into Le Petit Pont. And Tony Talviti again extends that, or shortens that fastest lap of the race technically. 3:33.104. His consistency is absolutely unmatched. He now leads the race by 42 seconds. My goodness. This is an absolute obliteration of the field here from Tony Talviti. So, Maddie Shepard gets the undercut. Van der Geest ran wide into Rosier. What can Shepard do now down the start-finish straight? It's a short straight, followed by a left-hander. She kicks the tail out. She'll get a good run out of the corner, but the Alfa Romeo will be ahead. And here comes the Bizzarrini of Laurent Lons. Lons is challenging again for third. And Lons gets third. So once again, challenging John Van der Geest has been the downfall of one of these contenders, who has gone for one move and lost another. So Laurent Lons now back onto the podium. And Maddie Shepard down to 4th position. Wow, look how racy she is though. She's still taking a very visibly different line to Laurent Lons here. Just showing herself to those mirrors, looking for any opportunity she might receive. Seeing some personal best laps coming in further back as well. Paul Upham, Michal Majerek. Not bad. They're not too far apart from each other as well, so we'll have to keep an eye out on that to see if there's any racing that takes place there. Little wide for Lons, but he's okay. Maddie Shepard just has this ability to hold these all-wheel drifts in a way that the other drivers can't really do. I'm wondering if that's a little quirk of the Corvette and the way that you have to drive it, or whether she just has such a different driving style to the others that it's showing up so vividly. Yeah, if you watch what I mean, she's just so much more slidey than the others, and yet in a way that's not losing her too much time. She seems to know where the limit is and what would be overcooking it. So she's just driving to the limit and not over it. Very good driving from Maddie Shepard, but she is now dropping back from Laurent Lons and John Van der Geest, who are driving absolutely exceptionally. John Van der Geest probably the best defensive drive that we've seen in this championship so far. I know that the Alfa Romeo 33 Corsa Stradale is probably the widest car in the field legitimately, but he's driving it like it's twice the width that it is. I wonder if it is the widest car. I don't really have any stats for that, but it's definitely quite wide at the back. A little bit narrower at the front. Probably just the way they do the aerodynamic profile. And as we talk, guess who's just set another fastest lap of the race? Who else but Tony Talviti, who leads by 46 seconds. I tell you what, it's an amazing feeling when you can accelerate away from the field like this, and you know full well that you are driving to a speed you're comfortable with, and yet no one can keep up or even get close to you. I had that once in a 1976 Formula 1 race at Brands Hatch, again with Sim Racing Online, where the car just felt like it was on rails and just stuck to the road. And I ended up winning that race by something like 46 seconds. I was rather helped by my main rival Dino Paolini being taken off at the start, but we ignore that. Meanwhile, Tony Talviti has now lapped Philip Pichler, so even on a track as long as the 8 kilometre long Circuit de Chirade, he is still lapping people. Oh, and I'm afraid Pichler, I think, is off the road again. My goodness, where even is he? Okay. He's struggling to find... Okay, well, I think there might be some glitchy physics going on down here, because no car is supposed to make it this far off the road. And so there's basically 0 grip coefficient there. I think he might have to take a trip back to the pits again to get himself back into this race, I'm afraid to say. Well, he will now, because he's fallen off the world? What is going on? Yep, he's fallen off the world. Okay, well, that'll be another trip to the pits for Philip Pichler, who has got himself in a pickle. Whoa! Oh my goodness! Oh, I am deeply sorry to anyone who's disturbed by that, but yeah. I've never seen anything like that. Well, there's your, I was going to say your comedic entertainment for the day. I do apologise to Philip Pichler. I'm sure it's not quite as funny for him. But his chance of a good result in this race were pretty much gone already. And again, props him for continuing. He's escaped back to the pits, but he's immediately got himself back onto the road. So that's all I guess you can ask for. We're into the final third of the race now. Tony Talviti leads it by 48 seconds from John van der Geest, Laurent Blons, Maddie Shepherd, Matthias Estrella, Jari Lakkinen, who's got Kirill Kirilov for company actually. Look at this race. Kirilov versus Lakkinen versus Martikainen here. Let's have a ride on board with Kirill Kirilov as he attacks Jari Lakkinen, while also himself having to make sure he doesn't lose out to Kimi Martikainen. Michal Mazurek is still 9th, then it's Paul Upham, Phil Brown and Philip Pichler, the only driver a lap down in this race. And of course we've only had one DNF, Mark Johnson in the Jaguar E-Type, who retired quite early on. A few sparks flying from out the back of the Bizzarini up ahead. Got 3 manufacturers fighting for this place now. 3 Italian manufacturers, Bizzarini, Ferrari and Alfa Romeo. And that's a very differing line there from Lakkinen and Kirilov. Lakkinen's driven most of this race on his own actually. Oh, and look at, we've got Martikainen on the left now. Are we going to see his nose suddenly appear? Oh no, we're going to see a crash. Oh, and Martikainen gets up on the grass bank. To be honest, very good save from Kirilov, not to spin the car around, and an equally good save from Martikainen not to get absolutely launched over that grass bank. Both these drivers very lucky to keep their positions there. Not really going to speculate on whose fault that collision may have been, but sometimes there's no definite answer to that. Kind of looked as if Kirilov was getting out of shape, but we didn't see from on board Martikainen whether or not he too was out of shape. It was definitely a slightly weird one. But yeah, Kirilov will set back after Jari Lakkinen. I was about to say he's been on his own for a little while. It's probably pretty exciting for Lakkinen to have company all of a sudden, even if it's not entirely welcome. And you can see he's picked the pace up too. Lakkinen sets his fastest lap of the race so far in order to try to escape from the Ferrari and the Alfa Romeo behind him. Props to these two actually, Kirilov and Martikainen. They probably had the most offs of anyone in this race so far, with the exception maybe of Philip Pichler. But not only have they both continued, but they're both still in the top 10. Neither of them have had to escape to the pits or anything along those lines. And they actually haven't had an off in a little while now, so I think they've tidied up their game. Now I've just noticed the lead gap has shrunk very significantly. Tony Talviti was previously leading by 48 seconds. He's lost 20 seconds. I don't see any damage. I don't see any evidence that he's had a spin, but he has definitely lost time. It almost looks like he might have made a pit stop, you know? Probably hasn't. I mean, I don't see any reason why he would. Unless, of course, he started the race on really light fuel just to extend his lead. And then decided he had enough time to make a pit stop. But whatever the case, he lost 20 seconds. And I'll keep an eye on that just to make sure that it doesn't signify the start of a real issue. Talking of issues, Paul Upham, was he upside down as well? It looks as if the Ferrari was on its lid, but Paul Upham has gone back to the pits now. I think he was, because he's had to escape to the pits. Phil Brown is now up into 10th place. So yeah, that's the second real flip of the race. Third if you count Philip Pichler tumbling down the hill, but that was kind of a little bit glitchy. But yeah, another big crash in this race has caused Paul Upham to escape back to the pits as well. Back to the fight for second. Looks like a bit of a lock-up from Shepherd in the background. She keeps it on the road. Can she get back into contention for the podium fight? This has absolutely been the tensest and cleanest battle of the race so far. Let me see if I can have a look back on the YouTube stream, see if I can figure out when Tony Talviti lost his time. It would have shown me if he'd been in the pits, and it probably would also have shown me if he had an off or anything along those lines. So when Kirilov and the like had their off, Talviti was still leading by 49 seconds. And that was very recently. And then very suddenly, pretty much in the blink of an eye, he loses 20 seconds. There's no red name of doom, with that being, you know someone's gone off when their name comes up in red. There's nothing along those lines. He just loses 20 seconds. Well, I guess I'll have to keep an eye on the forums after this race to see if any explanation for that comes up. And side by side, and a little bit of rubbing door handles now. And Shepherd gets back into third, ahead of Laurent Lons. Maddie Shepherd back up into third position now. And once again, a nice clean overtake in this race for the last positions on the podium. Now, I missed whether Lons had a mistake or something that led to that. Oh, he did. We saw it on the stream. I was just looking down at the time. He got a little bit out of sorts and then got on the grass. Good save. It wasn't too dramatic, but it was dramatic enough to lose him a place to Maddie Shepherd. Well, Talviti still seems fine. He's still extending his gap up in front. And still has the pace that he had before, and he's still got a massive gap, of course. But we do have that unexplained loss of time, where he clearly didn't have a pit stop. Obviously, if there was a pit stop in these cars, I think it would take longer, because it's not like they could change all 4 tyres in 20 seconds. Back in the 1960s, that came about much, much later. Shepherd now challenging Van der Geest with just over 10 minutes to go in this race. Now, she's done this before and got it slightly wrong and been passed by Lons. This time, will she get it? A little bit of a switchback manoeuvre. Goes to the inside. She startles him. I think they touched, but I think they're okay. And they are. Maddie Shepherd takes second place in the race for the first time. John Van der Geest goes down to third. Lons looked like he touched a wall there potentially. Just a little bit. But yes, Shepherd is up to second. But with a gap of 36 seconds, she's now got no chance of winning the race. She's just got to stay there. No chance of winning the race as it stands, of course. It depends if anything happens to Talviti. Yeah, she's just got to stay there and consolidate that second position because she knows it's the best that she can do. Fastest lap from Tony Talviti, 3:32.460. So whatever happened on the previous lap, it has not got him at all. And he's immediately set about setting another fastest lap. Towards the end of another lap they go. 14 laps of this race have been completed so far. We're not really going to get that many more. Maybe 17 or 18 laps at this rate. Probably 17 laps, judging on when Talviti triggered that that timing beam. But we'll wait to see. Up the hill we go again. It's now Talviti, Shepherd, Van der Geest, Lons and Estella in that order. Van der Geest still not done with Shepherd though. Still not done with that second position. Down the straight. He got a good run there. Wide goes Shepherd. Shepherd is under pressure. Keeps it under control. Like I said earlier, it's quite a different thing when you're out on your own and you have to forge your own path. Oh, Van der Geest locked up trying to avoid Shepherd. Lons nearly touched him. Van der Geest on the grass on the inside. They're definitely going to lose time as a result of that. Lons thought about having a little attack there. This is what I mean, the dynamic completely changes depending on who's forging the path and if they're prepared for that. Sometimes it can be quite frustrating when you're following someone for such a long time and then you get out in front and you suddenly realise that you're not really, you weren't really braking and turning and all of that at the same point that you normally would. You were kind of judging it on your opponent and just sort of following them around in a trance. And now you're in front, you've got to get yourself back into the right headspace again. That's wide from Van der Geest. Oh, you can tell he had to brake. And through goes Lons. So Laurent Lons is through into third place. A big mistake from Van der Geest. He spent so much of the race in second position, but it's all starting to come a little bit unwound for him now. And I think he'll be a little bit frustrated with that. If the race was just 7 minutes shorter, and obviously that's a big if because it's not, then he would have finished on the podium. Okay, so it looks like he's dropping back as a result of the momentum shift from that that little slide. The question now is, can Lons keep up with Shepherd, or was Van der Geest bunching them up? That didn't look great from Shepherd. She was a little bit out of sorts into Le Petit Pont, but I think the line through the corner was a bit smoother than Lons was. John Van der Geest trying his best to keep up, but he's about 2 seconds back from Lons now. And in all due respect, never looked quite as quick as these two. They were definitely keeping up with him very convincingly. And it always looked as if they might well have the pace to go through. So now I guess we will see whether or not that holds water now they're out in front. across the line to start another lap. You can see by their times just how fast Tony Talviti is. Of course, his fastest lap, 3:32.4, I think. These guys are doing laps in the 3:38, so that's 6 seconds per lap that Tony Talviti is pulling away. Matheus Estrella, 3:40.2. Didn't see any personal best laps that time around, but I guess that's to be expected at this point in the race. Maybe people getting a little bit mentally exhausted. I certainly would be. It's a difficult track at the best of times, let alone in these old things. Paul Upham now a lap down. So that means we have just the top 10 on the lead lap now. And Lackinen and Kirilov are off the road. That is at the final corner. Okay, well they're back underway without losing any action, or losing any time rather, losing any positions. Sorry, third time lucky, they did lose time. I wonder if Lackinen maybe spun and Kirilov got caught out. Tell you what, it's rather impressive that Kimi Martikainen's running in 6th place at this point in time, considering he had about 3 spins in 1 lap at one point and dropped right to the back. A really good recovery drive from the Alfa Romeo driver. There will be just 1 lap after the lap that they're on now. So, probably, yeah, it will probably be 17 laps in total. As I expected about 5 minutes ago. Kirilov in the 57. On the back of Jari Lakkinen's Bizzarini, the number 12. Past a rock wall. This has been a bit of an accident black spot. Sometimes the cars run a little bit wide through the right-hander and get kicked up by the grass bank on the inside of the left-hander. Very close to him, isn't he? Oh, and I think Martikainen's had another off. Come on, man. Where's the circuit? There it is. Get it back on. There we go. Doesn't look like he's lost a place in that, but I was talking about how he hadn't had an off in a while, but he's still struggling for grip in that Alfa Romeo 33. Laurent Lons now about half a second off the back of Matty Shepherd, and John Van der Geest is keeping up with them. I may have been wrong about his true pace, actually. And I guess that makes sense, because there are straights on this circuit. If the other two had been significantly faster than him, they probably would have gone past by now. Or would have gone past a lot earlier than they did. Van der Geest absolutely still has a chance of getting on the podium today. Tony Talviti, meanwhile, has started the final lap of the race, but we'll get to that in due time, because we are still watching this very entertaining scrap for second place in the race between Shepherd, Lons and Van der Geest, who are now on their own final lap of the race. And Lons and Van der Geest both set their personal best laps of the race, showing you just how much they want to keep up. Kirilov's off again. He will probably not be able to pass Jari Lackinen then, because he's had another little incident, as shown by the red name of doom on our timing screen. So one more lap then. Just 8 kilometers left for Shepherd, Lons and Van der Geest. Well, less than that now, but obviously 8 kilometers on the last lap to determine which of these will come out in second position and which 2 of these 3 will end up on the podium. Surely it's got to be 2 of these 3. Everyone else is way too far back. And it looked as if Van der Geest was all out of sorts there. He did run wide. He's going to drop back as a result of that. He now needs Shepherd and Lons to hold each other up too much. Or even, heaven forbid, come together. The wonderful sound of mid-1960s GT cars echoes around Charade for the final time. And as you can see, the timer has now ticked to 0. Let's make sure that we don't miss anything. We're riding on board with Tony Talviti, the very convincing race leader for the entire race. It is absolutely going to be a grand chelem for him, just as it was in Bannoch Bray in Scotland. There is pretty much no doubt about it now. Oh, and Lons is off! What has happened? Well, Van der Geest is waiting for him. Okay, I think that means that Van der Geest must have run into him and he realised that it was his mistake. So he's backed off and allowed Lons to maintain that third position. That pretty much guarantees that it will now be Shepard second and Lons third. But we've got to make sure we catch Tony Talviti crossing the line, because this has been possibly the best drive that I've seen in Sim Racing Online. It's certainly been the best drive I've seen for a very long time. Just trying to work out where he is on the track so we can see how much of the lap he's got left. He's catching Philip Pichler actually to lap him for the second time. This is the last corner here at Rosier, and Tony Talviti is going to win by 48 seconds. That is incredible stuff there. An absolutely imperious drive, and if he hadn't randomly lost those 20 seconds earlier on, he'd have won by over a minute. Still not sure exactly how that happened, but it doesn't matter now because he has won the race. Maddie Shepard, though, will retake the championship lead by virtue of Julian Powers unfortunately not being here today, and by Shepard having come in just 1 point behind him and now finishing second in this race. I don't have the exact calculation, but she will pretty much definitely be leading it, I'm fairly sure of that. Out of the final corner she comes, and across the line, P2. She will be happy with that. You saw the little celebratory wiggle, and I'm not surprised whatsoever. Laurent Lons comes up to the line now. P3. Good drive from him. John Van der Geest, who defended so well but unfortunately collided with Lons on that last lap, is 4th. Matthias Estrella, I do apologise that we didn't see much of you in this race, Matthias, but there was simply so much going on in other places on the track, but great job from Matthias. Kimi Martikainen, the overtaking master of the race, unfortunately had a few too many spins to challenge for the top 5, but I think he had top 5 potential in terms of pace, and he will hopefully hold on to 6th place. He's got one more corner to go himself. Locks up though, come on Kimi, get it to the line. Whoa, big twitch, but there he goes across the line. And is he going to spin it in celebration? Nope, not quite. Yes, he is. Round he goes. There we are. Okie dokie. Jari Lakkinen is going to come home in 7th position. Over 2 minutes behind the leader, but that doesn't matter on a day like this because, honestly, Talviti was so imperious. Kirill Kirillov, 8th position after various incidents of his own. He was in strife as early as the first lap of the race, but still managed to finish it. Michal Mazurek will be 9th place in the crimson red Chevrolet Corvette. Phil Brown will be the last driver on the lead lap when he finishes in 10th position. Nearly 3 minutes behind in the Shelby AC Cobra. What a day this has been. Thank you all very, very much for tuning in. My name is Caitlin Penny, and I will hopefully as well be bringing you the last 2 rounds of this championship from Fellberg Ring in 2 weeks' time, March the 6th, and then the Kleine Nordschleife on March the 20th. Phil Brown crosses the line, and he is 10th in this race, and that means that everyone has now finished this race. So the final order was Tony Talviti, Maddie Shepard, Laurent Lons, John Van der Geest, Matthias Estrella, Kimi Martikainen, Jari Lakkinen, Kirill Kirillov, Michal Mazurek, Phil Brown, Paul Upham, and Phil Pichler, with the unfortunate DNF of Mark Johnson. Let's see. So Tony Talviti says, I crashed once, lol, hassling with nicotine pouches, so crashed on the straight after T1. Okay, well there you go. But it doesn't matter. He's won the race, and there you go. That was absolutely incredible. Kira Kirilov saying your Bitserini was 5 meters wide. Yeah, there was definitely some great defensive work going on out there from various drivers. I think he was talking about Matthias Estrella? No, it would have been Jari Lakkinen, sorry. But there you go. Anyway, there you go. That's it for today. Join us in 2 weeks' time. Thank you all very, very much for watching, whether you are watching it live or on repeat. And I will see you in 2 weeks' time. Goodbye.